take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Life in Red.
What's up, everybody? Episode 8 of the Life in Red podcast. My good friend Tony Stark. What's up, brother?
Hey, man. It's so weird to be on this side of the table because I'm usually interviewing you on my show.
That's true. We are little bits and
yeah. So it's
gingerness stuff. I don't know. I'm usually the token redhead.
And this week in Ginger, it's the best bit ever. Yeah.
Do you remember the video? What was it? You, Dana, and I. We did the Kiss a Ginger Day and tried to get people down.
Do you know that got 7,000 views? And I know that might not sound like a lot, but for us, it was a lot at the time.
Yeah, and especially with how Facebook roams, and we're not like a huge account,
right? And they always change.
Crazy.
They always change their algorithm. So like, even if you're hot one day on Facebook, they change it so you're not hot the next day.
I always joke. When that was happening, because there was another one I did with Johnny and Dana about a documentary about gingers.
Okay.
And that got like one of their most views too. I'm like, gingers are the keys to success of content.
Yes, it sounds like it. Yeah, that's
right. Tony, you are Afternoon Drive on Jump 106.9. You've been doing that for...
I've been doing that for about 2.5 years, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Because I started on mornings.
Yes.
And then I was moved to afternoons. So I've been doing that for about 3 years, and December 1st of this year will be 4 years I'm with the company.
So how long have you been in radio in general? Because I know you've been in a couple different places throughout the country at least.
So I took the Algonquin radio program in 2001 to 2003, and then I've bounced. I worked at a few stations here. I worked for Chin Radio, which is an international multicultural radio station.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like over 20 languages. It was my first real job out of school. And it was like 25 different languages. I was doing like producing shows like the Russian show and the Mandarin show and stuff. And you know, it's interesting because it's a different type of radio that they don't teach you about in school. So it's cool to do that. So I did that for about 3 years. And like, you think it's rough trying to like tell a DJ like, hey, be quiet, we got to go to commercial or songs. You try telling that to someone who doesn't understand, you know what I mean? So you're doing all these crazy hand signals and stuff, but like it was a very cool experience. So I did that, and then I got a job at another station here for about 6 months, and then I moved on to Brockville, where I worked for a classic rock station. I was there for about 3 years, and I was actually considering quitting radio. I couldn't get another job, couldn't even get another phone call or an interview. And then I remember I went out to dinner with a sales rep, and I said, I think I'm going to quit. And she was wondering why. I'm like, I can't get a call back. And even people in the building were saying, it's time for you to go. I'm like, I'm trying. But they were telling me that because, you know, sometimes when you work for a small town radio station, you become too big for the market. And I know I don't want that to sound the way it sounds, but I mean, like, you know, like it's time for you to move on. You've learned everything you can. It's time to move on. So we went out for dinner, and I said, I think I'm going to quit. And then the next day, or it might have been like 2 days later, I had an email waiting for me from a radio station in Halifax. It said, hey, we have this position open. Would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. So I went out there, and I loved Halifax. I still visit them like probably once every couple of years. I was there for about 10 months, and I loved it. It was a great radio station. But then about halfway through, they brought in a new PD, a program director who's in charge of everything on air. And it was an American PD, and our philosophies just did not match. So if you've ever listened to the show, if you haven't, I'd like to do a lot of different bits, talk about different stuff, like not only what's happening in like celebrity world, but what's happening in my life. And I like, producing like songs and stuff. I like doing different things. And he wasn't like that. He was like, nope, you just talk about the station, you do the call letters, and that's it.
Oh.
So, and at that point, and the guy who brought me in was like this super awesome, very encouraging, creative program director. Anyway, so I'm like, I got to get out of here, like now. And then about like a week later, I got an email from Virgin Radio in Montreal, which is one of the biggest stations in Canada. And they said, we have a position. We've heard about you. Would you be interested? And I was like, hell yeah, I was interested.
Yeah.
Like exactly what happened when I was living in Brockville. And then, so I was in Montreal for 4.5 years. And then I had an opportunity to come home because I'm from here to work for Jump. And that's how I ended up here.
Crazy. Something, because, like I listen to your show and you have all sorts of these, you always seem to have ideas flowing in different areas and what's going on, like always quick with the videos and thinking. So to have somebody who tries to take that away from you, I mean, like
Yeah.
that must have just killed it.
Yeah, it's just because I come from. There's a couple different ways you can do a radio show, and mine always is to give you something that you can't get on another station, and to be creative. And when someone comes in and says you can't do that anymore, then I can't feel like I can do the best job I can. I feel more stifled. And that's not only in media, that's in everywhere, man. Like
Yeah.
any job, you could be, working 7-Eleven or wherever, and you're like, I got a great idea for a promo to get people in. And then, it gets you excited. But then when someone turns around and says, no, and I don't want to hear about that stuff anymore, it's like, why am I even here?
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. I've talked about this quite a bit with business and everything. Like it seems like it loses the humanity factor.
A little bit, yeah.
That comes into creativity, that comes into caring about the people and what they want. And I mean, obviously it's different case by case, but just to have, like, if you're going to really succeed, you want your people, like, feeling like they're a part of something.
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely. Yeah. Or everyone else will feel like a part of like another cog in the wheel.
Exactly. Like,
You know what I mean?
My idea did this, and like makes you feel good, and you're like, okay, like I can contribute ideas, and that's gonna help me and help the company, and it's like a better atmosphere
Yeah,
for
and
everybody.
creativity spreads.
Yeah, for
Just like
sure.
negativity spreads really quickly, creativity spreads, all I can say is that when I came here, a lot of people there were some videos being done, but when I came in, I really put a big emphasis on creating videos for the station to just like give us another dimension that, I wasn't seeing from other stations. And I know that other jocks saw that and picked up on it, and like they started doing their own. And then at one point we were all doing videos, and it was awesome. So creativity really spreads, especially when it's being encouraged. And I don't know why some companies don't. Maybe it's because they're afraid of what's going to happen,
I think like in some cases, maybe it's more of the manager, like, oh, this person's going to take my job, or if, I'll lose my job because this person might be better than me.
Yeah.
I think that might be a case, like
But if your company's doing well and you're the manager of that company, that's going to look good on you, right?
I guess it depends what type of management you fall on.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Right?
What type of manager you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Because there are some people, I'm sure there are some people who are threatened no matter what you do, that, their job could be taken. And we do work now in an industry where a lot of people are nervous about job security.
Oh, don't we know that?
Yeah, right.
A story for another time.
Yeah.
What kind of, did you always know you wanted to do radio, or is it something that kind of just came about in a weird way?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a priest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. And I went so the opposite way on that. I wanted to be. I was I'm super religious Portuguese family. So
Okay.
I'm like, Mom, I'm going to be a minister, and she's like, Oh, I'm so proud. That's a real accent, by the way. I didn't just make that up. And I don't know. I always listened to the radio. There used to be a station in the city called Cool FM, and I listened to Cool a lot. And it was kind of like Jump. It was a top 40 station, but I'm kind of a sports guy too. So I would listen to the Team 1200 at the time. It was Auto Sports Radio. It had a different name. Anyways, they had a call-in show. So one day I called in and I gave my opinion on something. And then the jock who was on the air, he said, have you ever called here before? And I said no. And he goes, man, that was a great call. He's like, call back. And at the time, I was only 14. So once he said that, I think the wheels started to turn. And I'd call back and be a more regular caller. And he just seemed like he gave me the confidence. He said, you're doing a really good job with this. You should continue that. And then I went to go to, I graduated high school, Immaculate High School here in Ottawa. And then I said, okay, I'm either going to go into film or radio or vet. Like, it's going to be a vet. It was going to be one of the three. And then I applied for the 3 programs. I got radio first. And then I just took radio on, and I just went with it. And then I was going to be a news guy because I was a strong news reader, and, even the teacher said news is your future. And then when I went to go work for Chin, which was the international station in town, my personality was more of a jock, and then I just kind of ran with that, and that's how it all kind of started. But I would say when I was about 15, 16, it started to like fast that I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be another face in the crowd in a weird way, because my dad, who works so hard, he's a Portuguese, he has that work ethic in him, but he worked like 7 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with that. He worked on it, and I love him for it. But I just didn't want to be I just didn't want to do that. I just didn't want like a regular job. I wanted something that I think I could succeed in like big time, and that's why I went into radio.
Yeah, I always define it as like I myself in the same way. It's like I need something like air quote sexy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't want to just kind of sit in a cubicle, and even though it's somewhat what I do now, but
Right. But you're involved in something.
yeah,
bigger.
like it feels bigger maybe than it is, but like, we do get a lot of cool perks and meeting people and music and festivals and all that
So
kind of stuff.
how did you fall into it?
Man, I wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
And I applied for journalism at 3 schools. And then but you had to do 5. You had to pick 5. And I was just like scrolling through. I'm like, I don't know, man. And I was like, oh, radio. Didn't even really think of that as a career.
Right.
And so I was just like, whatever, I'll throw it in there. And I ended up getting in. And when it came to decide, I just kind of picked it.
Okay.
And was like, yeah, that sounds fun. So there's never like a very like,
There wasn't like a hunger for it.
No.
It was just something like you kind of just fell into it.
Yeah, and like I listened to the radio, but like I never really called in. Like I was always a big fan of the Bear, so it was funny that when I started working here, working with like legends like Gonzo and Wendy
You're
Daniels,
pretty much working at the Bear.
I'm like, Wendy, I've been listening to you since I was a kid, and I'm sorry that probably makes you feel old.
Yeah, that's right.
But, do you know what I mean? But like, it was never like you hear the stories of people like, oh, I had my AM FM dial in my room and would practice radio shows. I was like, I wanted to write. I was always a writer. I like to write.
Yeah.
And it's funny that like now I do have that creativity at writing. With some of the stuff I do, and I knew as soon as I was in radio and I did my first on-air show, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to be an on-air host, because like everyone thinks you can just crack a mic, and
no,
like
you
it's
can't. Yeah.
like, and you're just like, hello, I'm on the radio.
Right.
It's like that, and then I found out what goes into it. I'm like, that's a lot of pressure, man. Like,
yeah, it is, and it is. But sometimes people who are haters, they love to talk. I can do your job. Let's put you in front of Mike and see what happens. But for a lot of, it's funny because a lot of people in radio are introverts. You know what I mean? They don't like crowds. They don't like public speaking, which is so strange but you're alone in a room with a mic, which I always found interesting that some people I know, like they're pretty much hermits. Like they go home and they go do a radio show, go home, do a radio show, go home, do a radio show. And then they get into a crowd and like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think, because if in any other case, it would feel almost like they're insane in a way, right? Like I know it's a job and you're broadcasting to people, but you're sitting in a room just talking to a microphone, like kind of laughing, being like, like making it all animated and
that's
stuff.
Right. I think, it's funny because sometimes there's a big window on the studio, and Mr. D, who does evenings on Jump, he saw me yesterday, and when I talk on the air, I use hand gestures and all a bunch of. He goes, "You look kind of crazy." So like, if nobody knew what you're doing, you're just standing there, and your arms are moving, and your head's moving, and stuff. It's just like everyone's got different ways of getting into stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I know some have like, and maybe it's more of a rookie broadcaster thing, but like a stuffed animal or a picture or something, or a mirror.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any of that stuff?
I did when I first started. Yeah, I did it for about 3 days and I stopped. Because one of the tricks they try to teach you, at least in school, is that put a picture up and talk to the picture while you're on the mic, and it might help you connect more with the listener and actually sound more personable. So it's a trick I tried, but I'm not really that type of jock. Some DJs write everything out. I do not. And sometimes that gets me in trouble, and sometimes it helps me out.
Yeah.
I'm not really much of I'm going to say this. Well, sometimes when I go into a break, I'm like, I know how I'm going to get out of it. But sometimes I don't know how I'm going to get out of it. I'll just start talking, and I have no idea where I'm going with it. Kind of like when I talk to girls. But I always eventually find my way out, which I always find was a kind of an exciting part of the business, part of the job.
Yeah, for sure. It's always amazed me, and especially more experienced people like yourself, or some of the people who work on our sister station as well, Mr. D, like you said, how it's like I'll be in talking to you and you'll just be like, 1 sec, and just like rhyme off this thing like you've been thinking about it for days, and then you're out, and I'm just like right back into our conversation. I'm like,
it's like anything. It just comes with, I guess, with practice.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Just like when I was talking about talking to girls, whenever you try a line for the first time, how often does it actually work the first time?
Yeah.
You got to think of like, how are you going to set it up? Where's the inflections? When do you smile? When do you take that awkward pause to wait for her answer? That comes with practice.
Mm-hmm. What like, I guess there's 2 questions here, but you said you wanted to come in and do the videos, and you also mentioned you wanted to be in filmmaking. like, where does that, like, are you a big movie buff? Like, where does that kind of like start? Because I like watching some of your videos for the station, like where do the ideas come from? The spark, like,
It comes from anything really. I don't know. I can't really say where my inspiration comes because it comes from so many different places. But something could happen in the news or in a song, and I think in images. So when I'm sitting around talking to you or somebody else, and someone says something, I will. It's kind of like a songwriter. My buddies who are songwriters, they just hear something and then the lyrics start. But for me, it comes in images. So when I think of a video, I can picture the video in my head right away. And I can see how I'm going to film it and how it's going to look. And then that's how I get inspiration. I want to be an actor. I've always wanted to be an actor.
Have you ever like pushed it or pursued it in
no,
any
not
sort
really.
of form?
No, I never really did. And plus, Ottawa's not exactly the best place to start an acting career. But I never pursued it. I was in drama. I was in like acting classes in school and stuff like that, but never really pursued it. But I found my outlet through producing videos because I love to direct and produce a video. I love the fact that I can have an image, I have a vision, and I can portray it through video. So one of the biggest videos we ever did, or I ever did, was when we did a parody of Adele's Hello. And I was sitting in the studio. I was talking to my co-hosts, and the song came on. And the first thing I thought to myself was, a knock at the door, you open it up, and someone just starts singing the song to you. And you're like, who are you? Like, I'm not the person you're looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for. And then I got that idea, and then all of a sudden flashes of images came up of me sitting on the couch. You have the girl outside the building singing to the building because she's been kicked out. Which was one of my favorite scenes, was I filmed her lip syncing through the keyhole, through the eye hole.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that video, I shot and produced the video in one day, and it became the biggest video the station's ever done. So that was a success story. But then, man, like it's anything else. Like, you're a creative guy. Like when you write promos and stuff, you probably write 10 and 3 are good. So there's been tons of videos I've shot and I'm like, this is not, no, get rid of it. And it's all, it's in the can.
Yeah. One of like my process, I guess, when I'm writing, trying to put my ideas and creativity and trying to make it come to life is like, I write it out really fast. Like I just kind of get like, when an idea comes, I'm just like, and I just leave it for a bit.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to it. And does it need refining? Do I have another great idea?
Right.
And like, so like, for instance, if like a promo is due in 2 weeks, I'll write it on the Monday. Like I'll write it right away. And then I don't submit it till Thursday. So I have 3 or 4 days where I can come back and look at it and be like, dude, do I want to change this?
Right,
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
like with the Adele video, let's say I shot it on a Tuesday afternoon after the show. I produced it Tuesday night. It was finished by Wednesday morning. I didn't release it for 3 or 4 days, but I had gone through that video so many times.
Yeah.
I hate it. Like, and that's what the thing is with all my videos that I've done. I've seen it so many times, and I've gone over them so many times that I hate them by the end. And then when I air them and people like them, I'm just like, I can't stand it. I can't see it anymore. I can't, because I've seen it so many times, because I'm hypercritical about that stuff. But yeah, so whatever, for the 5 videos I put out in like a couple months, there's 10 that have been filmed and thrown out because I just don't like it. Yeah.
And then, like you put it out and you think it's great and it might not stick with people, or just social media didn't get it out. And
yeah, that sucks.
Sometimes there's like maybe a video you're just like, okay, like you're okay with it, but it's not perfect. But then like all of a sudden that takes off, and you're just like, it's weird what resonates with different people and what truly goes viral.
Yeah,
or
what
takes
people pick
off.
on. I went to a McDonald's drive-through, and it was when they were selling 67-cent burgers, and I just was in the drive-through and I said, I'm going to get a 67-cent burger. And then I panned out and the lineup was so crazy. I'm like, I'll go get some pizza. And then I just did that, one shot, 8 seconds, whatever. And then it was huge.
Yeah.
So it's like anything else. It's like, it's so hard, but so simple for something you do, a meme video, to go viral.
Yeah.
And like, it's a lot by mistake. Now, a lot of the memes and a lot of the viral videos are all set up, and you can obviously tell that.
Yeah.
So at one point, everything was done by mistake, all went huge. So like the girl who falls everywhere, the blonde girl, Apparently that first
have I
video
seen that?
was an accident. And then it became so big, she just now films herself falling everywhere, like in grocery stores and taking down bottles and stuff. It's hilarious, but that's what it's kind of become.
Yeah, for sure. It's maybe Vine changed that. Like, I don't know, because Vine, you could really set things up with different sequences but when social media really started, it was, I don't know, like it was more natural. People didn't really understand what it meant to be viral, right. But I mean, people falling is always popular. Fat people falling. How many times have you watched a fat people falling video on YouTube?
I don't know. Yeah, that YouTube vortex, because you go in looking for like a music video and it goes, here's some suggested videos. And you go in looking for an old Boyz II Men video and you end up watching a kid with glasses falls on target. Like, and it's just such a web.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And on Vine, like I loved Vine and I was late on Vine, but I loved it because it showed you how much you can do in 6 seconds. I was filming videos in Walmart. Like super weird it looked, but I was filming videos in Walmart and there was so much production for some people and just so much input on something that's 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that there's talk that's going to come back because I think Vine's become like a lost art form.
Yeah. I mean, I still watch the compilations. Like there was like,
right.
And like people have like sort of like YouTube, but like wasn't Shawn Mendes found on Vine?
Yeah. I think he was found on Vine. He was just singing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were found like that. King Bach, who's become kind of obviously he's become a celebrity now, but he got his start on Vine. So many people did.
Yeah. It's one of those things where amateurs can really, like, I know a ton of people now have like comedy deals and they're stand-up comedians because of it.
Yeah.
And
that's right. Get Netflix shows and YouTube stars have become Netflix shows. And it's crazy how much, like, and I have a YouTube channel and ain't no one calling me for a Netflix show, which is okay. It's cool. But like, you never know where it leads you.
It's so hard. And like, I mean, for everybody, to just, you always hear people who've made it. They're like, just do something. Just, if you want to do something, just go do it. You're like, okay, great. That's what I'll try. But it's so hard to get that notice, that attraction to whatever you're putting out.
Yeah. And especially when I first got here, I was putting out probably 3 videos a week. But now I'm much more selective on what I shoot and what I post. And also I go through burnout. Like and it's kind of like those Vine, a lot of people on Vine, you can see on Vine, a lot of the videos were spur of the moment, not a lot of production, which was kind of made it cool. But those Vine stars have gone on to doing other videos which are super produced and stuff like that. So it's actually changed. And for me, I don't have a team of writers. So I have input from some good people in the building, which is great. But I go through burnout. Like every few months, I'm like, I can't come out with another video, man. Like I don't have the idea. And if the video's not popping in my head, I'm not doing it. And like I said, if I don't see the images in my head, I don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just, when you put like some people put like you need to do a minimum of this. So like, you can't manufacture like a good idea, like just on the spot, right? Like the ideas come to you, and some people it comes to more often than not. Some people don't really get great ideas at all, and that's okay. Right. But you can't force a good idea because it's just never going to work.
Yeah, and it's never going to be good. And at one point, I was being asked all the time, "What's the next video? What's the next video? What's the next video?" And it's like, I don't know, and they weren't saying that in like a pressure kind of way. It wasn't like they were like, "Oh, you got to make a video." They're just like, "So what's next?" Because I had done so much. Now it's just like I don't know. And for every, like I said, for every video I put out, there's 4 that have been thrown out.
So you've been in radio for, I don't want to say a number of years, but
15.
15. So
years?
A good hardy veteran.
Yeah, right.
Especially in the industry that's always changing. That's always impressive. I mean, other than the obvious stuff of technology, like what sort of changes have you noticed, whether for the good or for the bad, like throughout your career, and how it's affected you and your job on air, especially?
Well, when I started, Facebook was just something that was being used by Ivy League kids, and then Facebook kind of blew up, and then blogs became a thing. So social media was not really around when I started, and I didn't start that long ago. It's become a beast on its own. So that's been one of the biggest challenges. And the other challenge is you're not just a jock anymore. You're everything now. So you produce your own bits, you produce your own songs. Like if you put parody songs together, sometimes I do. So you're like where you would go in at one point, you just did your show and you go home. doesn't happen like that anymore. You do your show, you're on Twitter, you're tweeting people. You have to let people connect with you as many ways as possible to stay relevant. And I think that's a challenge because a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that.
Like you said, a lot of them are introverts.
Yeah. Right? But I think the jocks, when I first started, I was working in another city and we had this big, huge conference on this stuff. And they said, you're going to have to do this because people want to connect with you because it's no longer radio used to be about the voice. You have a voice, people know who you are, but now it's like you got to do so much more. And a lot of people rejected that. Like people who were in the business for a long time didn't want to do that. And unfortunately, some of those people have been left behind. So the biggest challenge is how to stay relevant and creating ways to creating your brand, which is a big thing for me. Like I love working on my brand because your brand is you. So I think that's, at least from an on-air point of view, that's really important is working on a brand and just trying to be as personable and relatable as possible to people who are listening to, because once you can't connect with the people you're trying to talk to, that's a problem. So that's a big challenge. And then now with social media, it's become a bigger challenge because there's so many different ways to do it now and that you have to do it.
Would you find, you can answer for yourself or upon other people perhaps, but that there's a big difference between the way you represent, Tony Stark, the radio host, as a brand versus like who Tony Stark actually is at home, or I'm the same very
person.
real?
I think I'm the same person. I think you who works with me, I think you would answer that question better. But I think that I'm the same person on and off the mic. I don't think there's a difference. I would agree with that. Do you think there's like other people though who? There's more of a separation. Yeah, and that could be for a lot of reasons. I guess maybe that could be a reason like they don't want people to get too far into their lives, which I completely understand. Because at some times this business can get a little creepy. People want to know who you are, where you live. They want to know everything about you, and for a lot of people, that's kind of an invasion of privacy. Now, it's happened a few times with me, but not enough to make me stop being who I am. Because for me, I don't sound like a DJ. I don't think I do. And I think I'm the same person on and off the mic because that's, in my opinion, how I'm successful, or to this point being successful, is that there's not a fakeness. This is who I am. I'm the same person both on and off the mic. And for you to be successful, in my opinion, as a DJ, you can't be fake because listeners can figure that out and they can be like, nah.
Yeah.
And if you're saying one thing on the air and then you're saying something else on Twitter, then where's the line there? Like, why are you contradicting yourself?
Yeah. I know a ton of people who, I wouldn't say a ton, but who have like their thing that's verified and it's their public account, but then they keep a private account on the side for their friends.
Artists do that.
Yeah, artists do that. I know there are some radio people like who I know who actually do that too. Yeah. And sometimes I get it. You're a public person, but that doesn't mean necessarily that like it's an invitation for everyone to, like you said, get involved in your own life and your own business, right? Like at the end of the day, you're a public person, but you're still a person.
Yeah, that's right. And I totally understand people wanting to keep that private. There's parts of me that nobody knows about and I will not talk about because there's certain places I don't go. But there are places I do go because I think it's important, no matter what you do, if you're somebody in the media and you want to connect, people need to know that you're going through stuff that they've gone through. My mom had cancer. People have gone through that before. Yeah. You're living, you're buying a place, you're moving. My dating life stories got me in trouble. With my girls at the time, the girls I was dating at the time. I would do a topic about them, and then I get an angry call. Why are you doing this? And like that was when I was new in the industry. But I think if I talk about what's happening in my life, you're going to connect with that because there's a good chance you've gone through something in your life that's been the same. Also, I say inappropriate jokes at appropriate times. I try to say what I think you want to hear because I believe it. Like I'll crack a joke that I think you'll be like, okay, that's hilarious. Even though sometimes it might border on, dirty humor or whatever it is, because I think everyone does that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think there's enough people that on radio and just in the industry itself that they're just kind of wallpaper, and I don't want to be wallpaper. Yeah. I don't want to be just there. I want to be like, I want to say something or do something, and then you'd be like, yo, did you hear what he did? It was hilarious. Or, yo, did you hear about what he's going through? And, I was doing a lecture once at a school, and a guy says to me, he said, how do you deal when you're going through something in life, like serious? And I turned to him and I said, I talk about it. because A, it could help, and 2, people know what you're going through. A lot of people have gone probably through the same thing you're going through, so I use it as fuel. Now, not everyone agrees with that, and that's cool, but I don't know. I think I want to build a better connection, and I think you do that by telling people, "Hey, yo, I'm doing the same thing you're doing.
Yeah,
I'm going through the same thing you're doing."
Yeah.
Like you've been open about mental health and stuff like that. Did you ever feel like? Don't you feel like talking about it sometime? Well, talking about it would help. Because there's other people that are going through it, but they don't feel that they can talk about it. But when you hear somebody who's going through the same stuff you're going through, you'll feel more comfortable talking about it too.
Yeah, and that's part of what this podcast is. It's so I don't go on tweet sprees about what I'm actually thinking and feeling. I can actually just sit there and talk to somebody about it. It sounds a lot more natural. They're like, "Oh, Ryan's not a complete asshole. He's just
not a complete. It's a 14%."
Yeah, but like the mental health thing for sure, and. Like I tweet about it for 2 reasons. It's one, because it's me, like you said, talking about it, and like I'm putting my feelings out there. And it's getting it off my chest. So instead of talking to a therapist, I'm talking at the world. I do that the same thing with dating, which like is like a hardship, not a hardship, but like going through a tough time right now. And I get comments from people like, "Oh, complain about your dating life." I'm like, yeah, but it's also kind of like a therapy for me to try
to get it out,
deal with like the rejection, or maybe it's a funny story, or someone's like, "Oh, yeah, that totally happened to me too." And then I definitely 100% find it that when I put out a tweet that says like, I remember there's one time I tweeted, and I was drinking a little bit, but I was like 99% of the time,
and tweeting, man.
yeah, I was like 99% of the time, I don't want to be alive, and I tweeted that out. And I just put my phone away, and the next morning I was full of DMs, and wonderful people were checking on me, but the other people were like I feel this way too.
Yeah, right.
And it really fosters with certain people, and I don't know if it's the same with your listeners, but like a community.
Yeah,
and
right.
people kind of offer their support or their help or point you in the right direction. And I don't know if it's the same as social media with like maybe you have callers who call in or people who DM you.
Yeah, like when I first started, I lost my best friend. He died pretty quickly, and it's something I decided to share on the air because I knew that I wasn't the only person that had gone through that, but I decided to share it. Some people could see that as, "What are you doing?" But I didn't see that that way. I saw it as listeners. For me, you have to hear the good times, and you do have to hear about the bad times too. Because that's what makes you a person. Not everyone's happy all the time. And if they do, give them a drug test. Right?
And pass some here, please.
So so I got calls. People reached out. "Listen, man, I heard what you said. I want to send you my condolences." It was great. A lot of times, no matter what you are, like talking in front of a mic, there's a lot of stuff going one way. But it's the stuff that comes back that's the most rewarding. Even if it's something like I talked about, a long time ago, I talked about a girl that wanted to go to Mexico after meeting me for like a week. Like she seriously wanted to go to Mexico with me. And there I was in the store like 7-8 months later. This girl came up to me and said, "Hi, are you Tony?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "How are you?" She goes, "Good. Did you go to Mexico with that girl?" Like it's stuff like that makes the job rewarding because people, and like she goes, "Oh, I heard it because I was so funny because I kind of went through the same thing. It was only a month for me and stuff." So I love when stuff like that resonates. And like, that's just personal stuff that I've gone through and it connects. But for me, it's like the real stuff. My mom, my best friend, for you, same thing for your mental health with you. It's something you're so connected to, and to hear from someone else like, "Yo, I know what you're going through, man. I've been there." And it's like you said, like you talk about it, and make somebody else want to talk about it too. And if you can help one person, like if I could help one person tell my mom's story or my dad or my best friend, then it's all worth it.
Yeah, and I find it kind of cuts through the bullshit that is social media, especially in this day and age, where it's just constant. Like, and I mean, you could argue this is negativity, but it's like, it's more, I'm talking about like the hate and the outrage and people who are like just arguing and fighting about everything. Like, then you see someone that was like, mom was diagnosed with cancer today. Like, send your thoughts and prayers, just as an example, right? People, then you start seeing the humanity, and, to relate this to an actual real world situation, like the Humboldt Broncos game last night, like when that happened, and like those, some of the victims who survived were tweeting out, you really started seeing some of the like humanity and like the good of what social media can be.
That's right. Yeah.
And talking about it and actually being open and seeing like a human side to everybody.
And it very rarely happens on Twitter. Like, look at Ariana Grande.
Oh my God, that.
Mac Miller dies.
Yeah.
And people blame her on Twitter for him dying. Yo, she didn't give him the drugs.
Yeah.
She wasn't there when it happened. Apparently, she was the one that was trying to clean him up. And then there's people coming out here and they're like, oh man, you've done it. You're the one. Are you for real?
Yeah.
Are you serious? You keyboard heroes? Are you kidding me? Like, the fact that you could go after a girl who, love it or hate it, she's with this other guy and whatever. If you don't like her or you do like her, how could you say something like that, man? Like, you don't even know her. You're not in the situation. Like, some people are so miserable that the only thing that makes them happy is making other people miserable. And that's one of the nasty sides of social media. And, aside to that, just blaming her and just blaming everybody else for their problems. And that's what Twitter is. A lot of Twitter is people just blaming their issues on other people. And that's why they're so angry. I could comment about one thing about the Toronto Raptors because I'm a huge Raptors fan. And people wishing death on me. Like, look at Post Malone. Post Malone, when he did that emergency landing.
Man, yeah.
The plane like blew out a tire. He comes back on Twitter and he goes, oh, I'm all good. I can't believe how many people are wishing death on me. Like, people are wishing death on other people. That's why that's why it's so hard to have a conversation online. That's why it's so hard to have a conversation in general, because people are just angry.
Yeah.
And we're sitting down and talking and we have difference of opinions, but we can talk about it and it's all good. You can't do that on Twitter. It's very rare. And that's why when I do have a conversation with someone on Twitter, I praise them for it. Yo, man, look at this guy having difference of opinion and still we can have a rational conversation. The funniest one for me was somebody said on Twitter that there are no visible minorities on Ottawa Radio.
Oh yeah, I remember this one.
Okay, so for you listening, at the time, our morning show host was an Asian Canadian. We had an openly gay host. Myself, I'm Portuguese. Damien, Mr. D, is Caribbean, Canadian Caribbean, and it just wasn't true. So I respond with, I'm like, actually, this is the truth. And I speak about being Portuguese all the time on the air. And I've always been open and proud about it. And I actually get a response from someone who says, what are you trying to say? Are you against people of different cultures and races on Ottawa Radio? And I said, whoa. Did you even read my tweet? Or did you just pick something out of my tweet and ran with it? Because that's exactly what they did. Because I clearly said, and I said, what? If I was against it, why would I talk about being Portuguese on the air all the time? Yeah.
I almost find too, and I mean, you could argue Ginger's a minority, but it's not considered a minority. But what I mean is like, and I've talked about this before, and it's a huge issue I'm trying to wrap my head around, is like the people who are progressive and socially progressive, like, you can never be left or progressive enough, right? So the example, and I don't know if this was her rationale, but it's like, okay, you're Portuguese, but like that's European. That's not minority enough for us.
Yeah,
right?
No, I get that.
And
I highly doubt that they even did any research. I think they didn't go on any websites. They just assumed, because there's other members of the Ottawa Radio media who are visible minorities in the city. It's just something that was said, and I think that's a big problem on Twitter. It's like people just say stuff.
But people run with it too afterwards. They're like, yeah, like, totally. And like people, like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know the facts. You didn't do any research. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You just read the tweet or the headline, and then now you have a comment on it.
And then I messaged the guy back, and I said, man, I was against it. I would never talk about being Portuguese. What are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm for more visible minorities and more racially diverse. Now I'm all tongue-tied. What do I do for a living? Different people of race on Ottawa media in general.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he's like, oh, okay, cool, because you're sounding real defensive. I'm like, it's defensive? You can't even get my tone through a tweet. And that's another thing.
That's the biggest thing.
That's the biggest thing too, right?
What do they say? It's communication is like something crazy, like 80 or 90%, like
nonverbal.
Yeah, exactly. Right, like your body language. What are you saying? Like if I'm smiling and I'm like, "Hey, man, I hate you," you're like, "All right, you're just joking."
Yeah. And like my favorite saying right now is common sense isn't so common.
No, and being on social media and arguing, like I have a rule now. Like no matter what it is, like I don't go in the comment sections or I don't respond to tweets. Like that's my rule. Like I will not. Like even if it's something I truly believe in and I'm passionate about, like someone's like mental health isn't real or something. Yeah. Like I'm not going to engage. And I get where people start to think like, no, we need to take these people like down. Like we need to come for them. We need to educate them. That's fine and well, but you cannot do that on social media. That's not the platform. You know exactly how it's going to go. There's like the algorithm of the comment section where someone comments and then someone corrects spelling or questions their intelligence, and then another person comes. Like you know how it's going to play out, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's predictable.
And it starts with, I commented on a Complex post. They posted a picture of Lauryn Hill, and she was holding all their Grammys, and they said legend, and my response was legend. She had one good album, and she's done nothing since. And I got so much hate. It was crazy. Who the hell are you? I don't know. I just work in music, and I just telling you that she had one good album that did commercially well, and everything else has been kind of a wash. Like nothing else really did. She did what she did with Fugees was good, but Miseducation Lauryn Hill was a massive album, great album, but everything else for me just didn't like. And her sales backed that up. But man, people went in on me and they called me every name in the book. And that's the thing, man. You go down the rabbit hole. Like even something as stupid as like I'm a big sneaker guy. So there's a page where people sell their sneakers, and somebody was selling his sneakers at an outlandish price. So I commented, I'm like, man, I remember when I had my first beer, and that just and like I'm you, like I don't go in the comment section anymore. If I hit something and it gets out of hand, I just mute the conversation because I don't have time or the energy to keep going on. And at one point, you can only have the conversation so long before you're like, yo, I can't say anything else. Because
people aren't fighting to understand your point of view see your argument. They're arguing to win.
Yeah.
They am right.
Yeah, they want to reinforce their argument.
Not you. You lose, I win.
And we've all been there. Like we're not all innocent. Like we've all had conversations where you're just like, look, I'm right and you're wrong. But I think I can just give it a wash. I eventually ended with, okay, let's agree to disagree. And I'm okay with it. That's cool. But for some people, like, I'm sure if the notifications were still on, I'd still be getting messages.
What I don't find, and what I find, like, it's weird, is these people who claim that they're good people and they're standing up for something that's right and true, and they're like, for example, like someone puts, we'll take Roseanne Barr, who put out the racist tweet. Yeah. So people come at her being like, I hope you die. Like, I hope your family dies. I hope everyone gets like these obscenities of just hate and violence and ugly truth, like not ugly truths, but just ugly words. And I'm like, you're just as bad as putting out a racist tweet. You're wishing like cancer on someone's family. There's like, I was pulling up that Sense post about Eric Carlson today, and people were like, I hope Eugene Melnick liver fails again. He died. Like so.
Those are unhappy people. Like, and there's always a small percentage of.
But it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's become its own beast because Twitter has become a kind of a platform where you can say pretty much whatever you want,
and you can be anonymous.
No repercussions of it, and that's cool, and that's uncool. But that's just what it's become, and it's a very small percentage of thing. And remember, anytime something happens, you're more likely to hear from haters as opposed to anything else. For every 10 complaints I've gotten, you get 1 or 2 compliments. So it's just the way it is. I at one point I would like argue with a lot of people, but now it's at the point now where I'll say something and then I'll just leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Maybe put your opinion out, but like people are replying and you just go on about your day. Like,
yeah, it's just like, whatever, man. I'm going to go hang out with my girl. I got stuff to do and
I'm going to go live my life.
And it's funny, before Twitter became like, I was really like jumping on Twitter and all stuff, I play a lot of online games, like Xbox games, and like that was the original Twitter.
That shit goes
Xbox
dark.
Xbox Live was the original Twitter.
Halo,
people would say like the craziest stuff on there, and now it's just on Twitter. But you can't let it affect you. Obviously, you can't let it affect you because it's not real life. It's just not. Unless it's Trump tweeting about like something super crazy, which happens like once a day. It's just not real life, and it's hard. It's hard to let it go. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people. Me, you, everyone. It's just hard to let it go because sometimes you hear something or someone says something so wrong or so stupid and doesn't make any sense. You want to fight back. You want to clap back. But sometimes, man, I'm just like, there's no point. There's just no point.
Does nothing. It just makes maybe you look stupid or foolish or just then they come back with something that pisses you off even more.
I tweeted about Nicki Minaj. At the VMAs, they showed her like looking around in the thing, and then I tweeted Nicki looking for another person to blame on her poor album sales. And man, like I got one tweet which was literally swear. So I retweeted it and quote tweeted and said the education system fails somebody else. Swear. Like, you know, just responses for swear. And I was like, yo, I gotta mute the conversation because it's not gonna go anywhere.
I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna try to find this tweet because that's hilarious. But Nicki Minaj has like a lot of there's some celebrities like they have like the fandom on Twitter, like Camila Cabello, and they're just all over the place with that.
And I've been in the middle of some of the biggest ones on Twitter. One Direction for me, Camila Cabello is pretty close to maybe the biggest army I've ever seen on Twitter.
Yeah, it's
One Direction when they first came out and What Makes You Beautiful hit. I don't think I'd seen anything like that even since. We did an event with them in Montreal. At Musique Plus, which is the French Much Music at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they shut down the street on St. Catherine. And there was thousands of people out there in the freezing cold. Two people got hypothermia.
Oh my God.
And I had never seen anything like that. And it was just like, play the song. We love them. I'm like, who are these kids? And then there they were 2 weeks later in Montreal, and the place was so, like, it was crazy. Like, they just came in for an interview, and their opening act, Ed Sheeran.
Oh, and that was probably before he was big, eh?
That was when he just started off, yeah. And then Ed Sheeran has gone on to become a massive star, and one guy in the business that I have not heard one bad thing about. I have friends that like have interviewed him. When I was at the station, we interviewed him, but I wasn't there, and I've heard nothing but good things. Apparently, he's pretty much the same guy he was when he was like lower on the totem pole as to opposed to now when he's a massive star. So that's always good to see.
Found the tweet. Suck my ass, you stupid.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
From Saucy Minaj.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, listen, how can you argue with that? You know what I mean? What am I supposed to say? Like, checkmate, you won.
But like, if you're gonna say dumb shit on the internet, okay, fine, I can't control that. Put your name and put your face to it. Like, have some sort of stones and ownership of your shitty attitude.
Yeah, at least my name's on what I put out there.
Yeah, must be fun for you too because you're verified.
That doesn't matter.
No, you don't find it like
That
kind
doesn't
of
matter.
like maybe pops up a little bit more than some accounts.
The coolest part of being verified, I'm not going to lie, is Gordon Ramsay follows me. That is probably
damn.
Probably the coolest part of being verified because we've tweeted each other before and like he's responded, but that was before I was verified. And once I got verified, a couple of new accounts followed me.
Mm-hmm.
He was one and Jenna Marbles was another, but I think that's just more like their team looking for verified people.
Yeah,
it's not a really big deal, and I know some people think being verified is like a massive deal, and it's really not. At least not for me.
The only thing like different too, like you pop up in a different mention category on the Twitter. I don't know. I'm not verified. I'm not big enough. I got to 9.
You can download a new banner. And you can put your name and it'll have like a photoshopped check mark in there.
Oh my God.
I know people who do that, who have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And sorry, I wasn't verified because I'm like some crazy celebrity or anything. I was verified because every announcer was verified. So I just kind of became part of it.
You're a crazy celebrity.
Yeah, right.
Like taking your, what you say on social media, you can be a little more flexible, but I know on the radio, things are pretty tight and controlled. Do you find it hard to find that line between, like you said, being like memorable, being interesting or relatable, and more, I don't want to say edgy content, but just like things that maybe aren't necessarily PC, like something that will probably get a complaint because everyone complains.
I don't mind complaining. Like,
do you find the line hard to figure it out?
It all depends, right? When I first came on, to say edgy is an understatement. I think I really pushed it, and then I was told to pull back, so I had to find the line. And it's something that I'm glad that happened, because when you first go on the air, when you're first a jock and you just start saying crazy shit, you can come off as people start thinking you're a jerk, just a jerk in general. And then if you start off as a jerk, it's hard for people to start to give you a chance because you're a jerk. But if you start off just like normal and then you waver into that jerk territory, then I think people are more accepting of it because people figure out understand who you are and they get to be familiar with who you are. So when you cross into that territory, they're okay with it. Because it's not all the time. It's just once in a while. And I think, yes, it is kind of a tightrope act because I do like to veer into that when it comes to my opinions, when it comes to some of the jokes I crack. I do veer into that territory. But I don't try to do it as much as I did at first because I was starting to get the impression that people thought I was a jerk.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to, like, offering an opinion in front of, or not in front of, but to thousands of people, you know, you're putting yourself out there quite a bit. Like, do you, like, and I mean, we're on a top 40 station and it's not a talk show, but like, do you kind of just like maybe refrain from giving like actual real opinions on things or like? No.
I think what I say is usually what I believe.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to dating, especially dating as a topic, I do like to give my honest opinion and, sometimes people don't want to hear an honest opinion and it's nothing like really mean or anything like that, but you know, like one topic was a guy hasn't called me in 3 days. Why? I'm like, well, he's probably done with you. And it's the way I said it that got someone upset, got people upset. Well, how could you say that? I'm like, but it's true.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you my honest opinion. And like I said, for the haters, they're like, how could you say that? You're such a jerk. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Lie to her? Oh, no. Like, he'll call. Why would I say that?
Yeah.
And then I got another call from a girl who said, I loved it because it's true. You've given your honest opinion. And a lot of times people don't want to hear honest opinions, and that's just the way it is. It's
such a polarizing thing where like people, like there's a push one way and then people start pushing back, and you see that on social media. You see that, you know, with what people say, like people who provide content and entertainment, especially like whether it's a radio or a TV host or someone who hosts a podcast or you know, a Netflix special, whatever. Like there's Norm Macdonald. I don't know if you saw the
that's right.
The
he cracked
story,
a few
right?
jokes, right?
Yeah, or and he just, you know, sometimes answered a question. Like sometimes you just answer a question, and you see this all the time with sports or with politicians or anything, right? They give these very plain Jane, generic answers, and people are like, people never say anything at all, and you're like, yeah, because if you do, people are just, one side's going to shit on you, then that side, the other side's going to come over and shit on that side, and they're just going to fight.
Yeah, that's right.
And like
I do like the pushback though. Like I love it when someone calls it disagrees because we can have a conversation, and that's what I want you to do. I want to have a conversation. I don't want it to be one-sided because that's not fun. I want people to call up and either agree or disagree, and we can have that conversation because that's real. People can have conversations. You know what I'm saying? And I love when someone comes up and goes, "I don't agree with that." Cool, tell me why, and then I'll go on the air with it. There are a few things I will not talk about on the air. Religion is one. It's top 40 stations, no place for that.
Yeah.
Politics, I'll go in and out of politics a little bit, but it is not a political show. Seriously, my show, I just want you to laugh a few times, enjoy the music, and just be interested. That's like, you know, I just want to say something that's just gonna just keep you interested and like have fun. And it's a top 40 station. There's so much. If you want heavy duty stuff, go to the talk station, go to CNN. But if you just want to like crack a few jokes and, you know, have maybe like a cool conversation about something, that's what my show is all about. Because there's a lot of crap in the world, and you can get that everywhere else. Like if something crazy happens, obviously we have to cover it, you know. But for the most part, I just want to give you a break from that stuff.
I like to ask this question, especially to people who've been in the business for a while. Like, what's maybe one or two of the craziest things that, you know, you ever had to cover, or you're the one who's on air when something breaks and you had to crack the mic and announce it? Like, do you have any memorable stories or instances, like no matter what it is?
I'm trying to think of like crazy things that happened on the air. I was in college when 9/11 happened, so that I wasn't on the air then. The shooting in here in the city, the
Parliament guy?
Yeah, Nicholas.
Yeah. Ebo or something.
I don't remember his name, but Nathan Cirillo.
Oh yeah, the corporal. Yeah.
I wasn't on the air here. I was coming here. Like I think I was in an interview process, and I didn't cover that either. I've been lucky, in a weird way of saying it. I haven't been on the air when like a lot of the Vegas shooting, but that wasn't in the instant. That's like not when it happened. It was like the next day. Mac Miller happened last week. So there's a death. A couple like Chester Bennington passed away when I was on the air, and I was a big Linkin Park fan. So, but nothing like, no crazy story about, oh my God, this happened while I was on the air that I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you have to cover that. And that's another way of connecting with your listener. Because like when he died, when Chester Bennington died, I saw him in concert, and I was like a big fan of like such hybrid theory and all that stuff. So I talked, instead of just reporting on it, I told my story about how I went to see him at concert and how he blew my mind.
Yeah, you did a blog about that,
and I did a blog and I wrote about it and stuff. One of the things that affected me the most was Robin Williams dying, because I've always been a fan of Robin Williams. And I learned a lot from Robin Williams because I kind of act like Robin Williams, where I'll break out in these like voices and stuff like that. And my friends, just messing with my friends and stuff. And that one affected me. And then I was on the air, but I put everything into a blog. And I talked about that. So unfortunately, like a lot of deaths during the show, which is unfortunate. Yeah, it always kind of happens in the afternoon, like just after lunch between dinner. A lot of stuff happens, and like I said, that's another way of connecting with people, because there's Chester Bennington fans listening. Yeah, Chester was one of the. There's been 2 celebrity deaths that have like affected me, and Chester was like one of them where like I actually felt like crying, and I always kind of was like, I want to say judgmental, but I was like, you don't even know these people, like why are people crying? Why are they outside the house? But then when Chester like died, I was like, I see it now, because like he's a guy who I really respect, because he wrote down, so many lyrics that like spoke to me in a way. Like I'm like, I get this. Like that's exactly how I'm feeling. Yeah. It's exactly how I want to scream. Yeah. It was him, and I like, not even a big name, but have you ever heard of Christina Grimmie? I have heard of the name. She was mostly a YouTube star. She got on, I think, The Voice. Okay. But she was... Oh, yeah, that's right. She passed away, too, right? She was shot in a meet and greet in Florida. And it was just not too long before the Pulse Club shooting in Orlando, too. Yeah. And that was another one where I'm like, I actually, like, feel this. Like, she was, like, a beautiful singer, and, like, just this small little girl who seemed religious and seemed just really happy, and she was finally starting to make it, and then someone goes and takes her life. I was like, I actually felt that it was a kind of a surreal experience for me to have that. I think it's because, at least in Robin Williams, the Robin Williams case, is that I didn't know that he was going through that stuff. Like I knew what he had gone through, but I didn't know that he was still dealing with it at that point. And he seemed so happy. He had a show. It got canceled and everything. It's like I knew him my whole life without knowing him. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is, and that's why I think people are so affected by music, especially by music, because you by their songs you're feeling what they're going through, and what makes artists so successful is, for the most part, is they're writing about stuff that you're going through too. Yeah, it's like it does relate a little bit to how you share your experiences and how people can relate to that. That's what it's all about, right? Like and I think if you build a connection like that, people feel even more connected to you, because, man, I heard what you said and I went through that too, and I just wanted you to know that you're not alone and stuff, and people feel even more connected to you, even though you're just coming through a speaker. Yeah, and the great thing about music is it transcends sex, gender, race. Like it doesn't matter, for the most part, like who you are. That like you can. It's a universal language, right? Yeah, and look at country music. Why does country music start making all sense to me in the world after a breakup? Right, it's always a country song that always just gets to you. Whiskey Lullaby, Lady Antebellum, Need You Now, and all that stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's just something about country music. It like that's what good music does. It hits you when you're going through it, because it knows exactly how you're feeling. Yeah. So other than radio, like what are some things about Tony that like you enjoy, or like? Oh, like I know the sneakers. That's a big cooking. One, but cooking. Yeah, I love to cook. Yeah, I love to cook. I got it. My new place has this like a huge island, so I can cook now, which is awesome. Never had us for a dinner party. I never had anybody over, and there's been reasons for that, because I'm I want to get the place like ready and like good, but now I might move, so who knows. So yeah, that's pretty much like cooking. I love sneakers, family. I do a lot of writing. And I like a lot of writing, but
Like what kind? Like is it
Everything,
like, I know like you do the blogs for work, but like writing music, poetry.
Well, mostly like it's hard to explain. Like I do a lot of parody and stuff like that, but like I'm always constantly writing down ideas
Okay.
of like stuff I want to do, and it doesn't always come out. But like when I get an idea, I'll just start writing, and then like I was thinking about going into comedy, like being a comedian.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna ask that. I was like, have you ever thought about?
Oh, I've done it before, man. You know, that is some scary ass stuff.
Yeah.
When you're like, especially, and like comedians, if there's any listening, like, you know, when everyone's like, you know, when you get that first laugh, and everyone just dies of laughter, it's so infectious. Yeah, but it's also when you get that first bomb and you say something that you think is going to be funny and it doesn't go over funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty disheartening too. Yeah, I had a bit about, it was about how when I date, whenever I date a girl, she really every girl wants to learn Portuguese. Could you teach me Portuguese? And I'm like, no. And then why? Because you're going to butcher it. You're going to butcher it. You know what I mean? And then like one girl was like, can you just teach me something? And I said, okay. I'm like, tu és bonita. And she goes, what does that mean? And I'm like, tu és bonita means you are beautiful. And she goes, oh, tu és bonita? I'm like, oh, God.
Oh.
This is the exact reason why I didn't want to do this. And it's like, listen, I've only known you for like a week. I don't really want to teach you any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to, you know, like, unless we're like dating and you're my girl, then maybe.
I was seeing like a woman she was from the Czech Republic, so she had the accent, and I didn't want to like learn the language, but I wanted her to say stuff like in her language,
just to hear what it would sound like.
And because it's attractive, like an accent.
Oh yeah,
and, like, the Czech one was like the kind of like the vodka, like that, very Ushten, and you're just like, I'm like, and I was just like, say something that you'd think would sound, and she would say it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Is it one of those like accents that she talks around you enough times you'll start to imitate it?
I could see it happening.
Yeah,
it didn't happen, but yeah, it's
like my friend's Jamaican. You know, and that's the like, and we hung out enough with him, like to like an hour or two, and he's just talking, and then everyone starts imitating it. You know, it's so funny, and then he thinks it's hilarious. It's just like when you're around a British person too, in their accent, someone is gonna start shooting off trying their version of the accent. It's just kind of like contagious.
Yeah,
Portuguese people, don't
Australian,
really,
yeah,
Australian's another one, yeah. But you know, like I can see that you're hanging out, especially if like you're super into them, and then you want to crack a joke and you're like, I'll take photo.
Yeah.
What do you mean I got to leave? I just got here.
So obviously you're pretty in touch with like your culture, like of Portuguese. Like I forgive me, I didn't even know, and this is just me being from a small town, like Portuguese had its own like separate language, like outside of like Spanish.
You thought we're Spanish. I was just gonna say, you thought we were Spanish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you know why? Because Spain and Portugal are beside each other, maybe? Yeah.
And it's like I don't know what the correct term.
There's some similar words.
Yeah, okay.
But like Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese. Like Brazilian.
See, I didn't even know that was like combined. Okay.
Yeah. So Brazilian people speak Portuguese too. But no, I think a lot of people think that.
Yeah. And like I never grew up with.
No, that's okay.
Any of them.
Like Quebec French and Parisian French are, I think they're two different. Like not too different, like they're alike, but I don't think they're like super similar.
I've heard it's completely different. The French from France and the French from
I'm sure
Quebec.
There is, yeah.
And I used to have a joke I made in history class because I was like, France sent all the people they didn't want and like over to Quebec, and that's why it went.
And then you were asked to leave the class.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah. So there's maybe a joke
Go
bombing,
see Mr. Beauregard.
Except I didn't do it in front of a couple hundred people and have my joke bomb. I like listening to comedians talk about that though, because it's really interesting.
Yeah, it bombed. Like I remember getting off the stage, and I did get a few laughs, but I remember getting off the stage and I was like, man, that is brutal.
Yeah.
And I do have at least one set of like 6 minutes, because you need 6 minutes, but it's like a video. I've read it and done it so many times that I don't think it's funny. And I won't do it.
You've worked the bit so much that
I've worked a bit so much. Yeah, I had a bit about what would you do to smoke the best weed in the world. You know what I mean? And how like sometimes the people who you don't talk to at work, like you don't really get along with, have the best weed. And then you got to make the decision: am I going to hang out with this person just to get high? You know what I mean? But and like I've done the bit, and the people like close friends are like, do the bit for me, like let me hear it, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Weird, yeah.
It's not a bit that I can just say to one person. You know what I mean? Like, and your friends are your friends. Oh, it was funny, really. And the only way I'm gonna find out,
totally different. Yeah.
The only way I'm gonna find out is by going to a club and doing it again, and I'm sure eventually I will. But yeah, like I said, like I just don't think it's funny, and if I don't think it's funny, like I won't do it. I wonder if comedians are like that. Like I wonder if comedians are like, I know this isn't funny, but I'm gonna try it anyway to just see if it's just me. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I think probably definitely in some circumstances they would do that.
Yeah.
I think though it's like any art form or profession that you're speaking from yourself or your experiences or whatever. So I guess it would be that most of the time you think it's funny or it's a funny story to you.
Yeah,
or,
right. Yeah.
That was always good.
And you know what? Maybe I'm not meant to be a stand-up. Maybe I'm more meant just to be a writer. You know what I mean? Like you can write for somebody else. Chappelle has a co-writer. I'm saying I'm like Neil Brennan or anything, but I'm like, you know, maybe I'm not the one to deliver it. I'm just the one to write it.
Did you see Neil Brennan's I don't know if it was his latest special. It was the 3 mics.
No, I saw him on Comedians Getting Cars with Coffee.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, he has this one with it's 3 mics and they're all different. So it's him and they're all different sequences. So one is like it's like one-liners or one joke puns or something, and he just like says like one joke and one-liners. It's pretty funny. Then the third then he goes, so that's the first, and he goes down to the third, and it's like a stand-up routine, and then the second one in the middle is like it's like called Truth.
Okay.
And then he actually like
tells the truth about stuff.
Yeah, like goes into depth about like his depression or his breakup.
Okay.
So it's like this very like 3 different types of
like communication.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And it's really good. I highly recommend it because it goes, you're laughing at one point, but then you're going like super deep, and he's like just reflecting on things, and you're like, oh shit. Like,
yeah.
And I think anybody who, I don't want to say that's a very general statement, but anybody who sort of puts themselves out there for the sake of art, for entertainment, for comedy, I think they're a little fucked up inside.
I do that
every day. You know what,
day.
in the head?
I do that every day. Like, I mean, like, I do that when I have a lot of self-deprecating humor.
Yeah.
And I do that, you know, because I'm not, like, I don't take myself too seriously. So if I can make fun of myself and you can laugh, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? And I do that, you know, it's, I know maybe people don't think this, but I think being a radio DJ is an art form.
Oh, 100% it
and
is,
like it's your material is your art form, and I think my stand-up comedy is on the air, and that's where and that's where I've worked some of my bits. I've written bits and I've done them on the air. So I think I've actually never thought of that like that until with this conversation. That's so weird.
But you're right. That's
because I've written down bits.
You are doing some
and
comedy.
I go here and I talk about it.
You just can't see the faces. That's
I just
like
can't.
The only difference.
It's crazy. I've never thought of it like that.
Profound thoughts. Boom.
I guess I won't be going to the comedy club.
Couple of things more for you. One thing I do want to touch on, because I love to pick anybody's brain who works in the industry about this, whether it's a high level executive or an announcer or my boss, whoever. It's like, what do you think the future of radio would be? So my thing is, it's going to be completely, like, content's going to be completely syndicated. Music is somehow...
You mean like all day?
Yeah. So, and music is going to somehow be able to be by choice. And I don't know how that's going to work yet in terms of...
I've been on a radio station that's done that. So, like, it was a 3-hour show that I worked. It was called On Demand. And people literally went to the website and picked which songs they wanted next. So you could pick if you want this song next or that song next.
Yeah. I think it's going to be even more personal, like person to person, as cars get Wi-Fi. So it's almost like you have a structured content bit around the music you're selecting.
Right.
It's almost like you're programming your own radio station. But what you're listening to offers you the local programming of news and traffic. I don't know how it's all going to fit together yet, but that's where I think it's going as I see all these decisions being made.
The only way I would disagree with that is that stations only have a selected playlist. So I don't think that's the future of FM radio, because for radio stations only have if you're saying to me, you can pick any song they have on their playlist, then maybe, but I don't think you can go in there and go to Jump and pick like a Drake song than a Guns N' Roses track, and like I don't see that anytime in my future.
Yeah, here I don't even think there's going to be FM radio.
Oh, I'm sure. Listen,
I think it's all going to be like Wi-Fi's are going in the cars. Like I think that like that's it's going to be internet, and you can listen to LA or something. But like
you can do that now.
But you can. But like there's going to be a need because radio will always have a place for the immediacy and localness of the programming and your ability to have a song and crack the mic just like that and say, "Hey, this just happened in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Watch out." So I think that's always going to have a part. But in terms of the content and the music, I really think that's somehow going to be
delivered differently.
Yeah, it's just going to be really personal because I don't know how it would work programming wise, but I honestly don't believe like the CRTC is even going to like or like FCC like all those regulations that confine us now. I think it's not going to be a thing anymore. Like it's all going to just be free form content on the
I don't know.
But a business monetizing it.
I don't. It's hard because like even like 10 years ago I wouldn't have said social media would have played such a big part in our jobs. So I don't have an answer. All I can say is that I think there will be more syndication for sure. I think Canadians will be more syndicated for sure. But there will always be a job for a local DJ on a radio station. I think that will always be there. But in major cities like Ottawa, Toronto, stuff. Now, as far as the smaller cities go, that I think is where you can see a lot more of repeaters, what we call repeaters. But as far as the major markets, I think there'll always be work in major markets. And you've seen it in small markets, especially in the last 10 years. There's a lot less people working in those buildings. There are some.
Yeah. But it's like a sales staff and like...
And there's a couple of announcers.
Yeah.
But who knows? Everything changes so quickly that it could all change tomorrow.
You never know. You're a sports guy.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about sports, which is crazy. The big news today, depending when you're listening to it, on, the 13th. So Erik Karlsson was traded.
It had to happen.
Yeah. Do you think the Sens got fleeced? Or do you think it was a fair return? Because I think they got fleeced.
If you look at the list, I haven't heard of anybody except for one person. They got I think the big draft pick, the blue chip draft pick was 17th overall.
Yeah.
17th. When you lose, the saying is when you don't get the best player in the deal, you've lost. So I don't think they got enough.
None of those players will ever reach the potential or the stardom of Karlsson. Like
no.
He's a generational talent.
Player, yeah. And I was talking to someone and like, why couldn't you get a Mark-Edward Vlasic back?
Yeah.
The argument is the NHL has three great defensemen: Karlsson, Doughty, and Burns. Well, now Karlsson and Burns are going to play together,
and they're all in the same division.
Which is crazy.
At 10 p.m. at night.
The draft picks are the two draft picks. I think they did get fleeced because those draft picks aren't going to be good because San Jose is going to be good.
Yeah, they're going to be mid-level prospects who might
late round.
Like I think maybe at best. Like I mean, they could. Who knows? You never know, but. They'll never be a Karlsson, probably most likely.
No, but I was talking to Gonzo over at Boom, and we had this discussion because he said we're talking about Boston and how Boston traded Joe Thornton, and he's like, they lost that deal. I'm like, but did they? He's like, yeah, they lost the deal. They lost the best player. I'm like, yeah, but Boston's won a cup. And San Jose's gotten to a final. So for me, Boston won the deal. I know Joe Thornton's one of the great players and all that stuff, but Boston won a cup.
That's a good point.
And been to the Final Four at least twice, maybe twice. I don't remember. And he's like, yeah, but the first year after they traded him, they were awful. I'm like, yeah, of course they were awful. But the money they would have given Joe Thornton, which is in the 7 to 8 range, that went to Zdeno Chara and went to extra money probably kicking around for Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron, and they got draft picks for that Jordan Thornton thing. So they won the cup. So I think Boston won that deal because they got a cup out of it. I'm not saying Ottawa's going to win a cup, but I was a little disappointed that there was no name that I was like, even like...
You need to sell hope. Like in the trade back, like...
It feels like they're cheaped out.
People have heard about or something, right?
Yeah,
like
it feels like they're cheaped out.
Timo Meyer or Thomas Hertl. Yeah,
you know what I mean. And you could have got Mark-Edward Vlasic, and I know he's young and but he's a big deal. But you're giving up a big deal, and I think people are just tired of the team. Like people love the team, but they're tired of everything that's happened in this offseason.
So much drama the past
calendar
year,
and that interview did not help. It made it worse.
Ridiculous.
And Melnick, it's like it's ego with Melnick. I don't think. I think he tells like he doesn't care, but I think he does care that how people feel about him.
We should mock that video about the Carlson trade.
Yeah, I saw a really funny one about two guys doing the deal, and they were making fun of like how Melnick was always grabbing his wrists, and Mark Borowiecki. You know what? Like I like him, and I cracked the joke. I hope he bought you a new grill. Like you know what I mean? Like. And he was being interviewed after, and he's like, "I'm a team player," and like, there's no hate for Mark there. You're doing what the team asked you to do.
Good if your boss comes and tells you to do something,
man, of course,
99% of people are going to do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. Okay, cool. You're the next one out.
Yeah, I'm going to screw you over, take all your money.
Yeah, and like, as opposed to people are arguing who's worse off here, the Habs or the Sens, and I'm like, it's the Sens that are worst off. The Habs still have Carey Price, but it's cool. Like, listen, if you want to do a rebuild, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's what Dana was asking me, who does the show before me. She's like, why would you do a rebuild? I'm like, because you can't win, and you can't win with this team. You're stuck. You're not even. Vancouver had the same problem last year. They were stuck in the middle.
Yeah,
you got to cut bait or go for it. And if you want to do a rebuild, cool. But you got to get something in return. It would make more sense in a weird way to trade Carlson to a team that's not going to do well, like Phoenix or something, because they're going to get a high draft pick because they're going to suck. And then you can build off that draft pick.
Yeah. Yeah. People like in the NHL especially really bank on those second, third round picks now.
Yeah.
Like hopefully being those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah. Look at the Leafs. When the Leafs tanked, they got a ton of second and third round picks. Now they got some help. They got a generational talent like Austin Matthews.
But they picked up like Marner,
Nylander,
Connor Brown.
And some of their players who nobody really thought about, like their defenseman, number 3, what's his name?
Riley?
No, not Riley.
Zaitsev?
Zaitsev. No, and I don't get the big deal on Zaitsev. They signed him to a 6-year deal, and I'm like, what do you see in this kid? Dorsey?
Oh,
yeah, he's number 3. Anyways, he was like a pick that people didn't really think very much of, and he's come on and he's played really well. Yeah, Travis Dermott. So he's played really well. So I'm really excited to see what the Leafs do. I do think they need another stay-at-home defenseman who can play defense because, good God, Jake Gardiner last year. I'm really surprised he's back. But the Leafs have a good offensive defense, but not like and you can't keep signing Roman Polak and Hainsey.
You're a Leafs fan, eh?
Yeah,
if you were to do allegiance,
my dad was a Leafs fan, and I'm a Leafs fan growing up. Yeah, for sure.
So Tavares, when that happened,
oh man, like I was floored.
Lost my mind.
I thought he was going to resign. I thought it's going to
pull the Stamkos.
Yeah, but at least Stamkos didn't even go to free agency. He just signed.
Yeah, just before.
Yeah. I'm really psyched because it's been 67. And you know what, man? Like, I do want the Sens to do well because it's good for the city. I think people
makes our job so much more exciting. When the Sens are doing well, there's a vibe. There's a positive vibe going on.
And like there's a lot of talk about people not going to games and stuff. I think it has something to do with one location, and I think it's people are tired of Melnick.
100%.
I think people are they don't want to support him because they don't like how he's running the team, and people feel like he's cheaping out. And next one is Bobby Ryan if they can trade him.
Yeah, they were supposed to dump him with Carlson. That was always the biggest rumor.
But I don't think
that contract, man. That's
7.8.
Yeah, what? Oh my God!
And then you have these players, and they have like really good third and fourth line players. I like JG Pageau. I think he works really hard.
Man, he's out from the report is 4 to 6 months.
With what?
He got hurt this morning in the gym. Like he was doing like his pre-test, and apparently he tore his Achilles tendon, out 4 to 6 months.
Did you do you remember? I don't know how far back, but do you remember Uwe Krupp?
Yeah.
Well, he was like a pretty good defenseman, and he played for Colorado. And then I think he got hurt at home. He was snowmobiling, and I think he tore his ACL or something like that. You always hear these like crazy freak accents of people at home.
Yeah, there's Victor Rask who plays for Carolina, and I just saw it on Twitter today. He's out for a while. He has hand surgery because he cut himself with a knife. And like hockey players aren't that bad, but there's there's Ben Roethlisberger. I remember we got in a big accident on his motorcycle.
Yeah, that's
a
right.
long
Yeah, I
while
remember
ago.
that. And there was also the Cleveland Indians pitcher. I don't think it was Corey Kluber, but it was somebody else who was playing with a drone, and he sliced he's a pitcher. He sliced his hand open. And it was in the middle of the playoff. I think it was the playoffs where his hand busted open.
Yeah,
and then they had to
yeah.
And people still make fun of him to that point.
Yeah, it was crazy. Finally, the last question, because you've mentioned you're a huge Raptors fan, and if you follow Tony on any social media, you know that. The season's starting soon. Kawhi Leonard, no more DeMar DeRozan.
Thank God.
Yeah, you're good.
No
for that?
disrespect for DeMar. No disrespect to who he is as a person, but I cannot watch another season with him. Like, you can. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I like DeMar for who he is. He's been super open about his mental issues, which I think was groundbreaking.
Yep.
And was whenever athletes do stuff, people take more notice of it. Look at Colin Kaepernick.
Yep.
But man, like, he was the star, and they just couldn't win with him. They just can't. If you don't watch basketball, he's what they call a mid-range player. So he doesn't shoot at the 3-point line, and he doesn't shoot in the paint right in front of the basket. He's like somewhere in the middle. And he does, he dunks and he drives and all that stuff, but they call him the mid-range assassin because he shoots a lot of things. And he averages 27 points a game, and I will say that year after year, his game's been getting better. But man, in the playoffs, that dude disappears. Like, he's gone from 24 a game to 17, 18. Because in the playoffs, things change, and people like play harder defense on you. They there's a lot more pressure, and man, he just disappears. And I never believed that they could win or go far with him as the main guy. Mm-hmm. So I was, I'm somebody who is very vocal about that, and I even got Jose Batista, who blocked me on Twitter for no apparent reason, by the way, which is an aside story. Anyway, so I think, and now you have this opportunity to bring in arguably the top 3 player in the league, top 5 player in the league in Kawhi Leonard. You have to do it because Masai Ujiri, who's a general manager, he knew that I got to do something. I fired the coach, man. I got to do something. I personally would have kept the coach and traded DeMar DeRozan. Yeah. And I know there was this whole thing after because DeMar got traded and then he was all upset about it. He said, well, he told me I wasn't going to get traded. And then Masai's like, no. I said, at the time, there was no trade coming. And then things changed. So I'm really excited to see because I don't know what's coming, and that's exciting. It's like dating somebody new. Mm-hmm. It's like dating somebody new as opposed to going back to your ex. You go back to your ex, you know what's coming. You guys broke up for a reason. It's going to happen again because people don't really change. And then when you meet somebody new, everything's new and exciting. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what's coming. It's really fun. And he's such a good player that I think it's going to change the team. And I'm really excited for the season. Like, really excited.
Do you think Kawhi will resign?
No, a couple days ago, he bought a house in Toronto.
I heard that
was the big deal. So everyone's like, oh my God, he bought a house in Toronto. Oh my God, he's going to stay. No. He just bought some real estate. And we all know that real estate's really good right now and he can afford Especially Toronto. So I don't think it means anything. I think what's going to make Kawhi Leonard want to sign in Toronto is winning. So if they get to the finals, or if let's just say they win the championship, I think that's the best way to get him to resign. Yeah. That's what I think. I don't know. I still think they need some help, which hopefully they'll get. But yeah, I'm really excited for this season. You don't watch that much basketball, do you?
Not a whole. I watch enough to know what's going on and know a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm a super huge fan.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But like with any sport, I watch and I
like you know
I
what's
pay
going
attention.
on. You're going in and out.
I know the players
like
and I'll watch games and I get what's going on and stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm big into sports. It's just like, well, I sit down and watch a whole game and like dissect. Probably not.
Yeah, I'm like that with soccer. Like I'm a huge soccer fan and like, but I can go in and out of the Premier League or the La Liga or something like that. And then I don't have to check the scores every day and stuff like that, but I'm in and out of it, and I really enjoy it because I used to play it. So I'm like that with
and I'm
soccer.
like that way with hockey, like that.
Like you're just super fan kind of.
Yeah, I play hockey. I always know what's going on with Detroit. I know the rumors in the league, but that's also because I watch a lot of Sports Center. I'm on Twitter a lot.
Right.
And that's the people I choose to follow are insiders in hockey.
So what do you think of the Colin Kaepernick thing?
Man, I hear so many. Listen, for Kaepernick, I think I agree with what he's doing. It's a peaceful protest, and he's not protesting the anthem. Now, I'm not a veteran, so I try not to speak on how they feel about it. I've seen both veterans for and against. I honestly believe that if you don't have a say if your life is not impacted by what he's doing, like he's trying to raise awareness and bring people to the attention of police brutality and racism.
That was it at first. That he wasn't protesting veterans. He was protesting police brutality.
Yeah,
and
it's never been about the
racial
veterans.
injustice.
No offense. Yeah, it's been about a bigger cause.
And mark me if I'm wrong, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it was Trump who tweeted that he didn't respect veterans, and that it became that.
Yeah,
right.
I'm pretty sure that that was the big thing that left it. I mean, I'm all for people doing whatever they believe in as long as it doesn't hurt nobody. I don't think a lot of people should even be chiming in their opinions. And instead of how about we all of us focusing on what who's this offending, who's this pissing off, how about we just stop, listen to what they're actually saying, and turn our heads and be like, oh, there is a lot of racial injustice right now. You know what I mean?
But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
You don't want to hear what I have to say. You just want me to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the NFL tried this new rule, right? Either you come out and stand for the anthem, or you sit in the dressing room while the anthem plays. And then Nike comes out with this commercial, and then the NFL comes out with this statement saying we believe in a player's right to it's a protest or players' right to have their say, and we want to encourage that. Then why do they have to be?
Yeah, because it's Americans are so big on their Constitution, and it's a freedom of expression, or like you have that freedom.
Yeah, and then when Nike, who's a partner, they do the jerseys, they come out with this commercial. NFL's like, ooh.
Yeah, that was a great ad too. That was a great marketing campaign. But
and even Colin Kaepernick has done things that I don't get.
Well, that he went. What is it? He went to Miami and wore the Guerra.
Che Guevara?
Yeah, he wore that shirt, and I guess in Miami because that's a lot of people who fled the communists. So that didn't go over well. Like
the thing I
wasn't even that good of a quarterback, to be honest with you.
Well, he did have that one.
He had a
run.
good year.
He had that run, right? And the Shake River thing, I actually didn't hear about that, but I'm talking about when he said he didn't vote.
I didn't hear that one.
I was like, dude, like he said I didn't vote because someone's like, who did you vote for? He's like, I didn't vote. He's like, what do you mean you didn't vote? Like, I thought that was, for me, that didn't make any sense. Like, why didn't you vote?
Yeah.
Like you want this change, but you won't vote for it. Like at the time, like, yo, bro, you have to back up your words by actions. And you're doing your protest, and that's like, yo, all the love and praise to you. But you gotta vote.
Yeah.
You gotta tell people if you want change, you gotta vote for that. So that one kind of threw me for a loop. And like as far as him as an athlete, maybe he's not the best quarterback, but there are at least 10 quarterbacks in the league where I'm like, Colin Kaepernick should be playing.
Yeah,
he's
Buffalo
better
Bills,
than him
for sure.
What? And this is a really quick aside, but stop trying to make Nathan Peterman. Peterson? Is Nathan Peterman? Don't make him a thing. Like that guy, trade him. Get rid of him. And I'm not saying that because, he's awful. He hasn't played well. But his psyche must be...
destroyed.
His self-worth must be destroyed because all he does is throw interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, he threw
Bills
5 in his first game or something. Worse than Johnny Manziel.
I know. And he hasn't played well. Yeah, we can just go off on the side and the side. Yeah,
I
can
it's
talk
crazy,
sports
man.
forever.
Yeah, well, wrap it up. Appreciate you coming on, man. That was
Thanks,
a great
man.
conversation. Where can people find you, follow you, listen to you?
Okay, I'm on Jump 1069, jumpradio.ca. I'm on between 2 and 7. You can follow me on all social at Tony Stark Radio on Instagram, Twitter, and also on Facebook. Actually, just Twitter and Instagram. I don't really touch my Facebook very often.
Facebook's
And also
a dark place.
YouTube. Look at my videos. And if you
Check
want
out
to
the
tweet,
videos.
if you want to tweet me some hate, I'll try to have a good conversation with you.
Listen here, Tony, I heard you.
Yeah, maybe I'll try out some of my stand-up.
Anyways, man, thanks. Peace out, everybody.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.